Picture this. You wake up one morning, grab your keys, and head out to your car, just like any other day. You start the engine, pull out of the driveway, and within minutes, you are pulled over by the police. Not because you ran a red light, not because you were speeding, but because your driving license has already been suspended and you had absolutely no idea. No letter in the post, no warning, no phone call. Just a suspended license and a vehicle you are no longer legally allowed to drive. This is not a hypothetical scare story. This is the reality that thousands of UK drivers are about to face because of a sweeping new rule being enforced by the DVLA. And if you are watching this right now, there is a very strong chance it could affect you too. So before you get back behind that wheel, stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share could save your license, your wallet, and possibly your freedom. Let us start with the basics, because a lot of drivers still do not fully understand how the DVLA operates and what powers it actually has. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency is the government body responsible for maintaining a database of drivers and vehicles across the United Kingdom. They issue licenses, they collect vehicle tax, and they have the authority to revoke or suspend your driving privileges. And here is the thing most people overlook. They do not always need to go through a court process to do it. In certain circumstances, the DVLA can act swiftly and suspend your license almost instantly. And recent changes in how they enforce their rules mean that more drivers than ever before are now at risk. So what exactly is this new rule? Let us break it down clearly. For years, the DVLA has had systems in place to track whether drivers are medically fit to drive, whether their vehicles are properly insured and taxed, and whether they have declared relevant changes to their health or personal circumstances. But the enforcement of these systems has always been somewhat patchy. Letters would go out, some people would respond, others would not. And for a while, the consequences were delayed or drawn out. That has now changed. The DVLA has significantly upgraded its data sharing capabilities, working in partnership with NHS systems, insurance databases, and the Police National Computer. What this means in practical terms is that information is now being cross-referenced in real time. If there is a flag on your record, whether it is a medical condition you failed to declare, an insurance lapse, or an inconsistency in your vehicle or license details, that information can now trigger an automatic review, and in some cases, an immediate suspension notice. And the speed at which this can happen has caught many drivers completely off guard. Let us talk about one of the biggest triggers for instant suspension, and that is undeclared medical conditions. Under UK law, you are legally required to inform the DVLA if you develop a medical condition that could affect your ability to drive safely. This includes conditions such as epilepsy, diabetes where you have experienced hypoglycemic episodes, severe sleep apnea, certain heart conditions, vision problems that fall below the legal standard, and a range of neurological conditions, including dementia and Parkinson's disease. Now, here is where many drivers fall into serious trouble. They are diagnosed with one of these conditions, their GP is aware, they are being treated, but they assume that because their doctor knows, the DVLA automatically knows too. This is completely wrong. The responsibility to inform the DVLA sits entirely with you, the driver. Your doctor cannot do it on your behalf unless you specifically ask them to help you fill in the relevant form, and even then, it is your legal obligation to make the declaration. If the DVLA's upgraded data systems now flag that you have been treated for a notifiable condition through NHS records and you have not made the appropriate declaration, you could find your license suspended before you even realise what has happened. And driving while suspended, even unknowingly, is a criminal offence that can lead to fines, penalty points, and even prosecution. The second major trigger that drivers need to understand is the issue of continuous insurance enforcement, which many people still confuse or underestimate. Every vehicle registered in the UK must be continuously insured unless it has a formal statutory off-road notification, what most people know as a SORN. If your insurance lapses even for a single day, even if you are not driving the vehicle during that period, you are technically in breach of the law. The motor insurance database now updates in near real time, and the DVLA receives automatic alerts when a vehicle drops off the insured list without a corresponding SORN on file. In such cases, they can issue an immediate fixed penalty, and if the situation is not resolved quickly, it can escalate to license review proceedings. For drivers who have had previous endorsements or who are on probationary licenses, this can accelerate into suspension territory very quickly indeed. Now let us address something that affects a significant portion of the driving population, but is rarely talked about openly: vision requirements. To hold a valid UK driving licence, you must be able to read a standard number plate from a distance of 20 metres in good daylight, with glasses or contact lenses if you wear them. This requirement does not disappear once your licence is issued. It is an ongoing legal obligation. If your eyesight deteriorates to the point where you can no longer meet this standard, you are legally required to stop driving and inform the DVLA. The problem is that eyesight can decline gradually. Many drivers do not notice the change happening because it creeps up slowly over months or years. They adjust without realizing they have adjusted, and by the time they are genuinely struggling to read signs or see hazards clearly, they are already driving illegally. Opticians are now being encouraged to flag concerns about driving fitness when they identify patients whose vision falls below the required standard. With enhanced data sharing frameworks in place, there is growing potential for these flags to reach the DVLA more efficiently than before. If you cannot remember the last time you had your eyes tested, make an appointment this week. Do not wait. There is another category of drivers who are particularly vulnerable to the new enforcement approach, and that is those who have simply let their paperwork slide. If your license photograph is more than 10 years old, it is due for renewal. Failing to renew it is an offence, and while it may not result in an instant suspension on its own, it adds to a profile that the DVLA can act on, particularly if combined with other irregularities. Similarly, if you have moved house and not updated your address on your licence, you are in breach of the law. The DVLA must always hold your current address, and correspondence they send to an old address is still considered legally served. So if you are thinking that a suspension notice sent to your old flat does not count because you moved 2 years ago and never updated your details, think again. The law does not accept that as an excuse. Let us now talk about what happens when the DVLA does decide to act. Under the Road Traffic Act, the DVLA has the power to revoke a licence immediately in cases involving serious medical concerns, and they can also suspend a licence pending further investigation. In either case, you will typically be issued with a formal notice telling you to surrender your licence and stop driving. The critical thing to understand is that the moment that notice is issued, driving becomes illegal, even if you feel perfectly fit to drive, and even if you intend to appeal. Appeals are possible. If you believe a suspension has been issued incorrectly or unfairly, you can challenge it, but the process takes time. In many cases, drivers are waiting weeks or even months for a resolution, during which time they cannot legally drive. For those who rely on their vehicle for work, childcare, medical appointments, or caring responsibilities, this can be catastrophic. This is exactly why prevention is so much more important than cure when it comes to DVLA compliance. So, what can you do right now to protect yourself? The first and most important step is to check your current license status on the gov.uk website. You can view your driving license information online, including any endorsements, categories you are licensed to drive, and whether there are any notes or restrictions on your record. Make this a regular habit, not something you do once and forget about. The second step is to think honestly about your health. Have you been diagnosed with any condition in the last few years that you know falls into the notifiable category? If so, and you have not told the DVLA, you need to act immediately. You can complete a DVLA medical questionnaire online or by post, And in many cases, declaring a condition proactively, rather than being caught out, works significantly in your favour when the agency assesses your case. Third, check your insurance. Log into your insurance provider's portal or give them a call and confirm that your policy is active and correctly linked to your vehicle registration. Make sure your renewal does not lapse automatically without you noticing. Set a reminder well in advance of your renewal date, so you have time to shop around and ensure there is no gap in coverage. Fourth, if you have moved house recently, update your license address immediately. This is free to do online through the gov.uk website and takes about 5 minutes. It is one of the simplest things you can do to stay compliant, and yet it is something an enormous number of drivers have simply never gotten around to. Fifth, book an eye test if you are overdue. The NHS recommends an eye examination at least every 2 years for most adults, and more frequently if you have known vision problems. Not only is good vision a legal requirement for driving, it is fundamental to your safety and the safety of everyone else on the road. There is a broader conversation to be had here too, because some people watching this will feel frustrated. They will feel that the system is becoming increasingly surveilled, that the state is using data in ways that feel intrusive, and that ordinary, law-abiding drivers are being caught up in a net designed for those who genuinely pose a danger. Those feelings are understandable. But here is the honest reality. The roads in the United Kingdom are among the most heavily used in Europe. The consequences of drivers who are medically unfit, uninsured, or driving on lapsed licenses being behind the wheel are not just legal or administrative, they are physical. They result in accidents, injuries, and deaths. The enhanced enforcement mechanisms being put in place by the DVLA are not perfect, and undoubtedly there will be cases where drivers are treated unfairly or where the system makes mistakes. But the underlying intention, keeping unsafe drivers off the road, is something most reasonable people would agree with. The best way to protect yourself is not to rail against the system, but to make sure you are squarely on the right side of it. Know your obligations. Meet them. Keep your records up to date. And if you are ever unsure about whether something needs to be declared, err on the side of disclosure. The consequences of declaring a condition and being assessed as fit to drive are far less severe than the consequences of being caught driving illegally. So there you have it. The DVLA's enhanced enforcement approach is real. It is already being rolled out, and it has the potential to catch out a huge number of drivers who consider themselves perfectly law-abiding. Medical declarations, continuous insurance, vision standards, address updates, license renewals, these are not small administrative details. They are legal obligations, and failure to meet them now carries faster and more serious consequences than ever before. Do not be the person who finds out the hard way. Take 20 minutes today to check your license, review your insurance, think about your health, and make sure all your details are current. It genuinely could be the most important thing you do this week. If this video helped you or gave you something to think about, please share it with someone you know who drives. A friend, a family member, a colleague. Because the truth is, most drivers have no idea this is happening, and a little awareness goes a very long way. And if you want to stay ahead of the latest driving laws, license rules, and road safety updates in the UK, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a video. Every week, we break down the rules and changes that matter most to drivers across the United Kingdom, and we do it in plain language that actually makes sense. Stay safe out there, stay legal, and I will see you in the next one. Subscribe to my channel.